There is a certain kind of person who watches the world lose its mind over a game and feels nothing but quiet curiosity. Not judgment, not superiority, just a gentle distance, like watching rain fall on the other side of a window. If you clicked on this video, chances are you know exactly what that feels like. And today, we are going to explore the fascinating psychology behind why some minds simply do not get swept up in the roar of the crowd. But more importantly, we are going to discover what they are paying attention to instead. Let us begin with something that might surprise you. The person who does not obsess over sports is not experiencing a lack of something. They are experiencing a redirection of something. Their attention, their passion, their emotional investment, it all exists. It simply flows into different channels. Think of it like a river. The water is there. It just chose a different path down the mountain. And understanding why it chose that path tells us something profound about the nature of human attention and the search for meaning itself. Society has a strange relationship with sports fandom. It is one of the few areas where emotional extremes are not only accepted, but celebrated. Grown adults painting their faces, strangers hugging after a touchdown, tears streaming down cheeks when a team loses a championship. In almost any other context, this level of emotional investment in something you have no control over would raise eyebrows. But in sports, it is normal, expected, almost required for social belonging in many circles. So what happens in the mind of someone who looks at all of this and simply does not feel the pull? The answer is far more interesting than simple disinterest. These individuals are not experiencing an absence of feeling. They are experiencing feeling directed elsewhere. And where that feeling goes reveals something fascinating about how different minds construct meaning from the chaos of being alive. Before we explore that, consider this. The person who does not care about sports has likely spent years wondering if something is wrong with them. They have sat through Super Bowl parties feeling like an alien. They have nodded along to conversations about trades and drafts while their mind wandered to entirely different territories. They have watched friends form instant bonds over team loyalties and wondered why that particular magic does not work on them. This video is partly for those people, to let them know that their wiring is not a malfunction. It is simply a different configuration, one that comes with its own gifts and challenges. The answer begins with something called the default mode network. This is a collection of brain regions that light up when we are not focused on the outside world, when we daydream, when we reflect on ourselves, when we imagine the future or replay the past, when we think about what other people might be thinking. For some people, this network is extraordinarily active. It hums along constantly, pulling their attention inward like gravity pulls objects toward Earth. For these individuals, the external drama of a sporting event cannot compete with the internal drama already playing out in their own minds. Picture someone watching a football game. The crowd roars, the quarterback throws, the receiver catches, touchdown. Wow, them, people leap to their feet. But this person remains seated, not because they do not understand what happened, but because their mind has already wandered to somewhere else entirely. They might be thinking about the nature of competition itself. Why do humans feel the need to divide into teams? What psychological needs does tribal loyalty satisfy? Is the joy of winning meaningless without the pain of losing? Their brain is not passive. It is working overtime. It is just working on different questions. This brings us to a concept called depth processing. Some minds are wired to seek information that carries emotional weight and layered meaning. They want to understand the why behind everything. Surface-level stimulation does not satisfy them because it does not feed that deeper hunger. A baseball score tells them nothing about the human condition. A batting average reveals nothing about the nature of struggle or triumph or failure. But a novel about a man losing everything and rebuilding his life, that feeds them. A documentary about how grief changes the brain, that feeds them. A conversation about whether free will exists, that feeds them for days. This is not pretension. This is not an attempt to seem intellectual. It is simply how their nervous system responds to different types of information. When someone with this wiring encounters a piece of art that speaks to something universal about human experience, their brain releases the same chemicals that a sports fan's brain releases during a championship game. The reward is real. It is just triggered by different inputs. Neither response is more valid than the other. They are just different doors into the same room of human satisfaction. Think about what sports provide. They provide clear narratives with heroes and villains. They provide suspense that builds to a resolution. They provide a sense of belonging to something larger than yourself. They provide emotional peaks and valleys in a predictable time frame. For many people, this package is irresistible. It delivers everything the human psyche craves in a neat, repeating format. But for the deep processor, something about that neatness feels incomplete. They want the story to go deeper. They want to know why the hero became a hero. They want to understand the villain's childhood. They want to question whether the whole framework of heroes and villains might be missing something essential about how humans actually work. Sports, for all their drama, operate within a closed system. The rules are fixed. The outcomes are binary. You win or you lose. The clock runs out, and it is over. For someone whose mind constantly reaches toward open-ended questions, this closure can feel almost claustrophobic. They are not built for games that end. They are built for mysteries that never get solved. The question of who wins the championship will be answered by midnight, but the question of what consciousness actually is, that will outlive everyone watching. Now here is where things get interesting. This depth of focus is not always comfortable. The same mind that finds sports too simple can also find everyday life overwhelming. When you are wired to seek meaning in everything, you find meaning in everything. And sometimes that meaning is heavy. Sometimes the patterns you see in human behavior are not comforting. Sometimes the subtext you pick up in conversations keeps you awake at night. The person who does not obsess over sports might instead obsess over why their friend said something a certain way, or whether they made the right career choice, or what happens when we die. The mental energy exists. It just found different targets. There is also the matter of empathy. Research suggests that people who score high in certain personality traits tend to experience emotions more intensely, not just their own emotions, but the emotions of everyone around them. They walk into a room and feel the mood before anyone speaks. They watch a movie and feel the characters' feelings as if they were their own. For someone wired this way, a sporting event can actually be uncomfortable. All that collective emotion, the hope, the fear, the anger, the joy, it does not just wash over them, it crashes into them. Pulling back from sports fandom is not coldness. Sometimes it is protection. Imagine being able to feel what 50,000 people in a stadium are feeling all at once. The anxiety before a big play, the disappointment after a missed shot, the explosive joy after a last-second victory. For highly empathic individuals, this is not imagination. This is Tuesday. Their mirror neurons fire so readily that crowds become overwhelming. They are not just watching the game. They are emotionally processing the experience of thousands of strangers simultaneously. No wonder they prefer a quiet evening with a book. The book only asks them to feel the emotions of a few characters. The stadium asks them to feel everything from everyone all at once. This heightened sensitivity extends beyond crowds. These individuals often notice things others miss entirely. The slight tremor in someone's voice that reveals they are lying. The micro-expression that flashes across a face for a fraction of a second. The way someone's body language contradicts their words. They become detectives of emotion, constantly gathering data that most people are not even aware exists. In the context of sports, this ability has limited application. But in the context of human relationships, of art, of understanding the hidden motivations driving behavior, this ability is extraordinarily valuable. Consider the social dynamics as well. Sports culture often rewards certainty, strong opinions delivered loudly. My team is the best. That referee is terrible. We are going to crush them next week. For someone who naturally sees multiple perspectives, this kind of certainty feels foreign. They cannot root for one team without also understanding why someone else roots for the other team. They cannot dismiss a bad call without wondering if they would have seen it differently from the referee position. Their mind automatically complicates what others experience as simple. And in a social environment built around simple loyalties, this can feel isolating. But isolation is not always the right word. For many of these individuals, solitude is actually their native language. It is not something they endure. It is something they need. After a day of navigating the world, processing all those layers of meaning, picking up all those emotional signals, their mind needs quiet. It needs space to sort through everything it absorbed. A loud sports bar filled with screaming fans is the opposite of quiet. It is stimulation on top of stimulation on top of stimulation. Choosing to skip the game is not avoiding fun. It is choosing a different kind of restoration. Let me be clear about something important here. None of this means these individuals feel superior to sports fans. That is a trap some fall into, and it does them no favors. The truth is far more humble. Different minds need different things. A person who finds profound meaning in watching their team win a championship is not shallow. They have simply found a reliable source of community, excitement, and emotional release. That is valuable. That is healthy. The person who cannot access that source is not deeper. They are just built for different sources. Both rivers reach the sea. There is something else worth exploring here. The person who does not obsess over sports often develops rich inner rituals to replace what sports provide for others. Instead of game day, they might have reading day. Instead of fantasy leagues, they might have elaborate systems for tracking their thoughts in journals. Instead of team jerseys, they might have favorite authors whose books they collect. The human need for routine, for anticipation, for something to look forward to, it does not disappear. It just reshapes itself around different objects. Whether sports fan marks time by seasons and playoffs, the deep thinker might mark time by which book they were reading or which question they were wrestling with. Both are ways of creating structure in an otherwise formless existence. Both serve the same psychological function of giving life chapters and milestones. The content differs, but the human need being served is identical. We all need something to anchor our experience of time passing. These inner rituals often become deeply personal and difficult to explain to others. How do you describe the satisfaction of finally understanding something you have been thinking about for months? How do you convey the particular joy of finding a passage in a book that puts words to something you felt? but could never articulate. These experiences are real and meaningful, but they lack the shared vocabulary that sports provide. There is no highlight reel for a quiet moment of understanding. There is no instant replay for an insight that changes how you see the world. These individuals often become students of the things most people take for granted. They notice how light changes throughout the day. They think about why certain music makes them feel a certain way. They wonder about the lives of strangers on the train. The world itself becomes the game they are watching. And unlike a football game, this game never ends. There is always another layer to peel back, always another question hiding beneath the answer. This is both their gift and sometimes their burden. The burden part deserves attention. When your mind constantly seeks meaning, it sometimes finds meaning that is not there. Overanalysis becomes a real risk. You can think yourself into corners. You can convince yourself that a simple interaction was actually complicated. You can see patterns that were just noise. The sports fan knows the game ends when the clock hits 0. The deep thinker sometimes forgets that not every thought needs to reach a conclusion. Learning when to stop thinking is a skill they often have to develop deliberately. There is a difference between deep thinking and mere rumination that matters here. Deep thinking asks questions about reality itself. What is the nature of consciousness? Why do humans create art? What makes something meaningful? Rumination, on the other hand, asks anxious questions about the self. Did I say the wrong thing? Do they actually like me? What if I made a mistake? The deep thinker can easily slip from one mode to the other. The same engine that drives profound inquiry can drive exhausting self-doubt. Managing this tendency becomes a lifelong project for many of these individuals. The irony is that the sports fan has a built-in release valve for mental tension. The game provides a complete emotional arc. Anxiety builds, climax arrives, resolution follows. The nervous system gets to complete its stress cycle. The deep thinker often lacks this natural release. Their questions do not end. The game never concludes. They must consciously create ways to discharge the tension that builds from constant mental activity. Meditation, exercise, creative work. Something to give the mind a finish line it would not otherwise have. There is also the matter of communication. People who process deeply often hesitate before speaking. Words feel heavy to them. Once something is said, it cannot be unsaid. So they weigh their sentences carefully. In the fast-moving world of sports talk, this can make them seem slow or uninterested. The conversation moves to the next topic before they have finished forming their thought about the last one. They are not disengaged. They are just processing at a different speed. And in a culture that rewards quick opinions, processing slowly can feel like a social disadvantage. But here is what many people miss. That slow processing often produces remarkable insights. The person who takes 3 days to respond to a question might come back with an answer that changes how you see everything. The mind that cannot quickly declare which team will win might be the same mind that eventually writes something that moves thousands of people. Depth takes time. And time is not something sports fandom tends to reward. Something fascinating happens when you study these individuals over longer periods. Many of them develop a kind of peace with their own nature that eludes people who are constantly chasing external validation. When your satisfaction comes from understanding rather than winning, no one can take it from you. No referee can make a bad call against your insight. No opposing team can defeat your curiosity. The source of meaning lives inside, which makes it remarkably stable. This is not a small thing in a world that seems designed to keep everyone anxious. Consider the vulnerability inherent in sports fandom. Your emotional state becomes tied to factors entirely outside your control. Players get injured, referees make bad calls. Your team might go decades without winning a championship. The fan has signed up for a roller coaster they cannot steer. The deep thinker, by contrast, has built their satisfaction around activities they control. They can always read another book. They can always explore another question. They can always go deeper into whatever subject calls to them. This creates a psychological stability that is genuinely advantageous in uncertain times. But we should not romanticize this too much. Internal sources of meaning can also become internal prisons. The sports fan stuck in a losing season can at least commiserate with fellow fans. The deep thinker stuck in their own head has fewer outlets for shared struggle. There are trade-offs in every orientation. Neither path is purely superior. They simply offer different ratios of connection and stability, of shared experience and personal autonomy. They also tend to become exceptional at recognizing what others miss. Because their attention is not captured by the obvious drama, they notice the quiet stories playing out in the margins, the body language between two people that reveals more than their words, the small detail in a painting that changes its entire meaning, the pause in a piece of music that creates more emotion than any note could. They become collectors of subtlety. And subtlety, once you learn to see it, is everywhere. Let us talk about relationships for a moment. The person who does not obsess over sports can sometimes feel like they are missing a common language with those around them. Sports provide ready-made conversation topics. They create shared experiences. They give strangers something to bond over instantly. Without that, social navigation requires more effort. But here is the other side. When these individuals do find their people, the connections tend to run deep. They are not bonding over something external. They are bonding over who they actually are. Those relationships often outlast any sports season. There is a loneliness that can come with this inner life. That should be acknowledged. When your mind works differently from most of the minds around you, there are moments of feeling like a stranger in your own culture. Everyone is talking about the big game, and you are wondering about the nature of time. Everyone is upset about a bad call, and you are thinking about how memory works. It can feel like wearing headphones playing a different song than everyone else. This loneliness has a particular texture that is worth naming. It is not the loneliness of being unloved. People with this orientation are often deeply loved by those who know them well. It is the loneliness of being untranslatable, of having experiences that do not convert easily into shared language, of knowing that your richest moments might seem boring or strange to others, of carrying a world inside you that does not map onto the world outside. Yet there is also something clarifying about this experience. When you stop expecting everyone to understand you, you stop performing for their understanding. You become freer to actually be yourself. The exhausting work of making your inner life legible to others becomes optional rather than mandatory. Some deep thinkers discover this freedom early. Others spend decades seeking approval before realizing that the seeking itself was the problem. But here is what those lonely moments can teach. They can teach you that you do not need external validation to know your thoughts are valuable. They can teach you that the feeling of being different is just a feeling, not a verdict. And now we arrive at something important. The final stage of this kind of mind is not knowing more, it is needing less. At some point, the person who dives deep stops trying to figure everything out. They make peace with mystery. They learn to appreciate questions that have no answers. They discover that some things are meant to be felt, not understood. This is not defeat. This is wisdom. The obsessive need to understand everything is actually its own kind of prison. Freedom comes when you can let certain questions remain open, when you can sit with not knowing and find that it does not diminish you, when the search itself becomes the destination rather than some imagined conclusion that never arrives. This is the quiet victory available to every mind willing to stop striving and simply be present with what is. So what is the climax of this story? It is simply this: the person who does not obsess over sports is not missing anything. They are not broken. They are not cold. They are not somehow failing at being human. They are living life on a different frequency, a frequency that picks up signals others might miss, a frequency that finds drama in places most people walk right past, a frequency that hears music where others hear only silence. Their detachment from the game is not a rejection of passion. It is a redirection of passion toward the deeper mysteries that never stop calling them. The world needs people who watch sports. It needs that joy, that community, that release. But the world also needs people who sit quietly and wonder about things most people have stopped wondering about. It needs minds that refuse to accept simple answers. It needs hearts that feel the weight of questions. It needs the people who see the hidden architecture beneath everything, even if they cannot always explain what they see. The deep thinker is not better than the sports fan, but they are necessary. And in a world that often feels shallow, their depth is a form of light. If any of this resonated with you, I want you to know something. Your way of being in the world is not a flaw to fix. It is not a weakness to overcome or a quirk to apologize for. It is a lens that reveals things others cannot see. The same mind that feels out of place at a sports bar is the mind that might one day create something that moves humanity forward. Your sensitivity is strength. Your depth is needed. And your quiet observations are contributing more than you probably realize. Thank you so very much for watching this video today. If this spoke to something in you, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more thoughtful explorations like this one. And drop a comment below telling me what you think about instead of sports. What captures your mind? I genuinely want to know what captures your attention when the rest of the world is watching the game. Until next time, keep thinking and keep diving deep.